If you've ever wondered, what should I post about to market my business, to make sure people know that I know my stuff, that I'm someone to turn to, but you've hesitated and stumbled about how to do that, what exactly you're supposed to be putting out in the world anyway, then you're in the right place. Because that's why we have Joyce here today. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself, why this topic matters to her, and why it should matter to you. Joyce, welcome to the show.
Hi, Shauna. It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for the really interesting introduction. I'm excited to hear what we have to share on this topic. Like you've mentioned, I wanted to give the audience a bit of background about who I am as well. I'm Joyce Tsang. I'm a founder and a content marketer, currently actually based in Hong Kong. I grew up in Vancouver, Canada, so I guess that's where some of the identity and the personality and the way that I work comes from as well. Right now, I'm really busy with trying to acquire new clients, talk to potential new leads for my content marketing consultancy, where I guide SME startups and just really any individuals who have that struggle that you've mentioned when it comes to creating effective content, whether for their personal brand or for their business, and really trying to gain a sense of clarity as to what direction they should take and what most importantly, what noise should they actually block out because of the world of social media and all that's happening so that they can stay on course and make sure what effort that they have is placed in the right bucket and really drive the momentum for their goal. So that's a bit of the background of what I'm busy with and what I strive to do and why I'm here today.
I love that so much. And what I think is the most beautiful about what you said is that number one, I couldn't agree more with all of it. And then number two, it gives us so much room to breathe. And I think that's something that we can probably talk about just as business owners and as individuals, all of us joining here for this conversation. What do we need more of is room to breathe.
Yes.
And I don't think we give ourselves enough of that. And that's something that can absolutely help when it comes to deciding what we're going to post about, what we're going to actually create, how we're going to create it, and what does that look like for our unique businesses. Also,
Yeah.
where can we cut down on spinning the wheel, getting that hamster wheel going and going, going? We don't want that, right? There are a lot of ways that you can proverbially kill two birds with one stone. I don't love that saying, but you get the gist. So where would we start? Where are we going to start when it comes to what the heck do we create?
Yes, I think you've pointed out a really important thing for us to really think about. Instead of just focusing on what we need to create, sometimes it's about a rule of elimination as well. What do we say no to? That really boils down to things that we find value in at the end of the day. And one of the things that I would like to bring to the table for everybody to kind of think about instead of just jumping straight into content creation itself is, where do you usually hang out online, right? What are the platforms that you gravitate towards? What are the places that you like to use? What are the things that feels natural to you? Because I think a lot of business owners or just individuals get sucked into what we call and have been calling for the past, I don't know, 5 to 7 years. It's a very old term and it sounds so cliche, but it's always there, the shiny object, right? And as marketers, we all know we've always been placed in that weird pain point of being a content vending machine. And these terms constantly come up. And therefore, I think for us to really clarify ourselves as to direction, how we want to go about when it comes to content creation or telling our story, is the first thing, take a step back and really understand, where do you like to hang out? Because there's always going to be a new platform. There's always going to be new formats, new trends, new timely topics, so on and so forth. But unless you find that space where you find comfort in yourself, does it actually make sense for you to even invest a bit of your time to try and understand that platform and share your story through there? So I think that is actually one of the most important starting points, but often neglected or not placed into the focus where I think is of high importance, is where do you like to be so that you feel comfortable in using that platform in sharing your content instead of being abstracted and stuck in that whole zone of where other people are, what other people are doing, what else is happening in the world, but trying to figure just that one simple thing out from the get-go before you even start thinking about content creation.
I love that so much. And I'm going to tell you why. This is something that I had been preaching about for so long, is the two sides of the marketing coin. So many people only look at the one side. It's that shiny side that you talk about. It's that forward facing, let's talk about our ideal audience. Let's talk about where we can make the most money. Let's talk about where we can really nitpick, target, all of that stuff. And that's oftentimes I find that especially heart-led entrepreneurs, they start to get the ick. They start, oh, I don't like marketing, because they only look at the one side of the coin. And that, as you said, what you are actually going to, where you're going to share it. So just to recap, the one side of the coin is that shiny outward facing, the people who you're trying to appeal to, the people you're trying to work with. The other side of the coin is you.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you? Where do you fit into this picture? What's going to light you up? What is not going to burn you out? If you're not a writer, maybe you're a vlogger.
Mm.
Cool. There is no one size fits all, and you will be able to find your space. Now, the other part that we should probably discuss is that kind of idea of, what if you're not sure? Guess what? You don't have to be. There's this thing called trial and error. Tell me about testing where you want to show up, what you want to show up with, etc., because you're very skilled at that.
Thank you so much for giving me that compliment. I would say I'm a constant learner, and taking one step back after you've mentioned the importance of being able to figure out who you are within this whole digital ecosystem. I think another thing that people should consider and be mindful of is that when it comes to content, even though we are being bombarded with so much online content, it doesn't mean that you're restricted into just creating content online too. You've mentioned something like writing, vlogging, taking photographs, maybe even extending it to what we call more traditional or tangible ways, right? You could be writing a book, you could be painting, you could be just out talking to people, writing poetry, right? Exactly.
Shameless plug.
No, but absolutely,
So cool and fun, and a dynamic approach to how you can market yourself.
Yes. So I think it's also having that perspective of understanding, not just looking at the distribution channel and where you find a fit for yourself, but also, like you've mentioned, what do you find comfort and fulfillment and joy in creating? It doesn't have to be online, because at the end of the day, one of the key messages that I hope to bring to the table for your audiences as well is that consistency is the key to everything. Now, obviously, when you're in the grind and in the grit and in the what we call the messy middle, it feels like it doesn't matter. You just need that one viral piece or that one thing that hooks people. I would be here to hopefully inspire you to think otherwise, because at the end of the day, you can have that one hit wonder, but what comes next, right? What comes next? I think that is the main struggle that entrepreneurs, including myself, should really look into before getting yourself trapped in that whole idea of, I just need that one thing to work, or I just need that one person or that group of people to follow me and to become a part of my community. Think about how you can drag that onward so that it's consistent and you can continuously create something that means value to not just you and other people, and let them gravitate to that, because that is the hardest part. Staying alive and consistent on whatever platform and content creation format you decide, the longest is really the hardest part. It's not really just about creating that one thing. Now, I want to go back to your point as well. I kind of deviated from the starting point of the question, but with that being said, let's just say you have discovered and you have widened your perspective into thinking that I might own a business, I might want to start a business, I know what platforms I'm on, I have considered an array of different content formats, online or offline. Now, what do I do? And I think when it comes to content creation, and specifically my own expertise and my passion lies in content marketing, I think the most magical thing within that is really it being a combination of art and science. You have to be creative. There is that need for it, but science is also very important. So that's where, when you see a lot of articles and maybe testimonials or other industry thought leaders sharing, they always point to that one pain point, which kind of boggles my mind. They're like, it's so hard to measure the success of my content. It's so difficult to find the right metrics. It is just hard to prove that anything is working. And again, I'm going to challenge that and be a bit of a contrarian there and say, maybe it's because you didn't start off thinking about it. You have to start thinking about it before you start creating anything. So it's kind of like a recipe. You can't just throw something in the pot and expect it to work out and then go back and ask somebody, how much sugar did I put in? How much salt was supposed to go in there? You kind of have to start from the get-go and have that planned out. And I think that taps into your question about testing. I think that is the core of it. You have to start with the art and the science. So that being the step 3 of the process that we kind of briefly went through, that's how I do it as well. So before we even start going creative and doing things like that, there's always something in the back of my mind. We don't have to take it to the very far extreme of really conducting a very scientific experiment. However, there's always going to have to be benchmarks, content, patterns, and subject matters, content pillars, things that kind of stand as your controlled sample, where you can go back and refer to and compare that. And I would say also, no matter how big or small the numbers are, especially if you're starting out, and even for myself, I'm not looking at big numbers all the time. I have content that flop, I have content that does well. But the point here is you have to train your eye to spot these. But the only way for you to spot these, apart from doing numerous testing and being consistent, is you have to start having that mindset before you start creating anything. So you know where to pull these numbers or these patterns or these observations or actionable insights to actually compare the result of whatever you have done. So that would be my approach to anybody who is thinking about how we can actually assess the success or the performance of our content. Yeah.
My chest is like swelling with like nerdy excitement because I'm here like it's going to be externally valid and we're going to do cross-sectional studies and we're going to do A/B tests and don't worry, you don't need to get that deep. I just really love that stuff. Like that is super geek coming out of me, and you are 100% correct. You need to have some idea of what you're testing, what you're actually putting out there, and what information you want to gather in order to make that information useful so that you can make decisions from it. And that's where a lot of times, and I'm sure that you'll agree, is I work with my clients in such a way that I ask them, like, what is your marketing goal? Because yes, we're going to gather all the analytics in order to support almost any goal, but what's your goal? Because certain analytics are going to be irrelevant. If your goal is to obtain followers, but you don't really care about conversion yet, you're not quite in that phase, then who cares about we care about the conversion, guys. We care. But in this circumstance, let's focus on audience growth, which requires a certain subset of analytics to review and make decisions based off of. I love that. The thing that goes hand in hand with that, you didn't use this word, but you said it nonetheless, sustainability. This is the idea that you're going to be able to keep showing up consistently. You're not going to burn out because it's not going to be a drag on your system. You're not going to be doing the things that pull you down, and you're not going to be doing the things because of the analytics that don't work. Because those are the two things we don't want to do, right? When we're creating content for a business, we don't want to create content that sucks for us to do, and we don't want to create content that sucks for getting results, whatever the goal is. So we've gotten through the tactical practical, is what I like to say. The tactical practical. Who are we? How do we show up? Where do we show up? Etc. But then I get a lot of questions about, well, what do I even write about? What do I even blog about? What do I, people get, I just got it. You get, I'm looking at my screen. Sorry, I've got two screens. It's when, you look at that blinking thing of death on the white screen, and there's that cursor and it's blinking. You're like, what is that called? Okay, listen, everybody, whoever's watching right now, if you know the word that I'm trying to freaking say it, and I'm going to give you a freebie because It's going to come to me right afterwards, but I'm telling you right now, I'm going to give you a freebie. My most recent freebie is yours, and it's an amazing AI freebie. I'm not going to get into it because I'm not going to do the promo thing, but you're going to get it. Tell me what that word is that's in my brain that won't come out. There is a thing called tip of the tongue syndrome, and it's actually a scientific word. That's what's occurring. It's right here. So what do you do when people don't know what the heck to write about, to share their story, and they say, oh, nobody cares, or I don't know which thing to choose? How do you guide people through that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you just kind of responded to the the vast amount of information we had kind of jam packed in the last 5 minutes. There was one thing that really stood out as well that kind of relates to this next question that you have. I think what most people do not see or come to accept, or I would say think about, is that we are so bombarded with the image of an entrepreneur being that hustle person, right? We're constantly busy, we're constantly working on something. It's like a sin to sleep, like, it's not right to do this and all that. Now, I am here, so for all the audiences listening to this, Joyce Tsang, content marketer, founder based in Hong Kong. I am a very, very, very lazy person, and I love it. Now, why do I say that? Right? Why do I say that? I'm not saying it to make myself feel more relatable or try to put up some sort of image. No, the reality is, when it comes to marketing, I think people are not seeing the, let's just say, not the shiny versus the not shiny side, but the reality side that's boiling underneath. People always think that marketers, busy, hustling, trying to do this, trying to do that. I'm a business owner and I want to do this and do this and do this and do that. It's right that you have to have maybe an SOP, maybe some sort of guidelines, framework, strategies to guide you on your journey and do the things that you need to do in order to grow your business and attain your goals. However, when we're thinking about adopting any sort of new ways to market our business or make any business decision, I think you really need to think about, like, it kind of taps back to the first thing I said, what not to do. You have to know what you don't want to do. And I think the magic within specifically content marketing here is because when it comes to the art of content marketing, like we said, art and science, testing, figuring out what channels to be on, it all sounds like there's so much going on. But the fact of the matter is, without starting from the starting point that Shauna and I have just been kind of illustrating in the first several minutes of the show, is that without that, you end up using a lot more time and effort to do a bunch of stuff that might not prove, not, I'm not even saying that if it works or not, it's just not right for you. It's just not something that fits in and feels right for you to be sustainable and consistent with the whole process. So then you end up burning out or just feeling frustrated before you've even started anything. Marketing, when you do it right, and especially when I'm talking to another professional here, is that when you do it right, you're cutting out noise, you're cutting out things that you should not do. And the point that you've mentioned when it comes to metrics, again, yes, we care about conversions, we care about a lot of things, but say, for example, if you're a business owner and you just started doing YouTube and you go into the YouTube analytics, I would swear to you, you would be overwhelmed, because a marketer like myself gets overwhelmed. There's so many things to look at. There's a funnel, there's a conversion percentages, there's follower rates, there's how many seconds that person. There's so many things.
And that's for your whole channel. Never mind each individual video.
Exactly. And that's just for the whole channel. I think the step 4 of this, let's just put it in a more systematic way so that people understand where we're going here, is that, you need to know what not to look at. And that ties back to what Shauna is saying, by having your business goal. If you don't have your business goal, you're looking at everything. Everything seems important. And for me, who is very lazy, that's the best way I could put it, is I don't want to look at everything. That's why I make it a habit and make it very strict that I document everything and I write things down. Vision, mission, objective. Yes, it is cliche. Yes, it sounds like it is so old school, traditional, whatever it is, but sticky notes, posters, framed it. I don't know how you consume that information, but it has to be written down. And once that gets written down, you cut out all these other things that you're not, you don't need to look at the moment, but those should supposedly inspire you as to what content you should therefore be creating. So I think that ties in kind of nicely with the question that you posed just now, right? How do I figure out what content to create? By knowing what you do not want to do, so that it actually gears and clears up the road for you to see that path. Now, of course, that sounds simpler than it is, because if everybody can do it, then, Shauna and I will be out of job. But the fact of the matter is, it's not about selecting what you do most of the time. It's really about cutting out things that is inappropriate for you to do. So let's just say you are a entrepreneur, solopreneur, whatever it is, and you follow those, steps, you've done your research, and now you're sitting at the desktop and you're like, okay, I know I'm a writer, for example, and I'm ready to write. What do I write? The easiest tip I can give you, 3 easy tips. Very easy. Anybody could do it straight off the bat right now, right? One, something that really happened to you. So an experience sharing. The best way of doing experience sharing, of course, is the big title that probably will pop up here and there again, is storytell, right? Something you have experienced and just tell that story. Do not overthink it. Just write it down. You have tools like AI and all that to grammar check and do stuff. That's a later note. But writing a story about yourself, an experience of something that you have gone through, that's easiest way. Why? Okay, Joyce is going to tell you why. It's not because we're trying to write some sort of novel or inspire the whole world. No, but writing a story is the easiest way for you to connect with another human being, right? And because there's emotions, because it's authentic, because it's real. So there is no overthinking involved, and it's so easy. Anybody can do it. Your primary school children can do it, because it's just writing something you have experienced. So just write. That could be a starting point. The second thing, after storytelling, the second thing is anything that provides value. So you could take it across a spectrum, something that's highly educational if it's relevant to you and it's something that you have a passion in, or something that we call edutainment. So it's entertaining, but at the same time, there's some sort of message for that person to take away. So after that person reads or consumes your piece of content, there's something for them to actually take away. Now, if you just back engineer it and think of something that maybe you've heard somewhere, you've learned and inspired you, and back engineer that could work as well. Don't overthink it. It's not that hard. And I mean, the third thing you can think about is really to think about your objective, right? So going back to that idea of why did you start the business? Why are you writing this content? Why are you doing this? What is the why behind that? Like this show, right? Shauna obviously has a reason why, and that's why she's finding all these other individuals to come and contribute. There is definitely a why. Maybe it's just telling your why. Maybe it's just sharing your why. So at the end of the day, as you can see here, which is a fantastic summary that Shauna just whipped up here, right? It's only just 3 points. And I think the magic in that is it's so simple. It is really simple. But we've only got to that point because we shed away all the other stuff that's distracting for you to focus on that. And I hope that in itself is already, great value for anybody to take away.
That's amazing. And I love how succinct you made it. And one of the things that I wrote down for myself was just simplicity, right? There's this thing that I invented years ago when I was just having fun with my brand, and it was called the Two Cities. And I was reflecting on A Tale of Two Cities. So I said, oh, the Two Cities, authenticity and simplicity. And we've talked about both of those things today,
Yep.
right? Let's keep it simple, cut out all the noise, and let's show up as ourselves in a way that feels the most sustainable and something that we can keep consistent over time.
Yep.
If we're trying to fake it till you make it, if we're trying to show up as something we're not in a way that doesn't feel in alignment with who we are and what lights us up, it's not going to work, not long term. So here we just demonstrated very clearly how to keep it simple, stay authentic, and actually get results that matter for your goal, on your purpose, living your lifestyle.
Yep.
I love that. We could probably close off here, honestly. Like we just went, pshoo, I feel like we can do fireworks and, but we're going to give you more, a little bit of icing on the cake. So what I'm actually going to ask of you, Joyce, is if you could think for a moment on a sort of cherry on top idea that we may not have touched on, because there's so much more. You and I both know there's so much more we can give. But if there's one thing, cherry on top, that you can give related to what we just talked about today, I'd like you to share it. Now, before you do, because I'm going to give you a moment to think about it, because we did cover a lot, I want to remind everybody that conversations like this happen every single week, and you can join. In fact, I urge you to join the conversation because you have important things to say and people want to listen. And this is a really great way to get your voice out. A lot of times people forget. They think that the way they create content on their stage is the way they're going to get noticed. You're going to get noticed. People come to this stage here, they're going to read your comment. You can get noticed in that capacity as well, because community is another aspect of this, but we'll get into that on another day. With that, Joyce, I'm going to give you the stage. I'd really love to hear what you have to say when it comes to that next step, that cherry on top for our audience.
Yes. The cherry on top here is something that has really sparked myself and reminded myself as well. When you're a small business owner or somebody who's starting out or have a struggle in what we've just mentioned today when it comes to storytelling, what I would say is you need to start and do it yourself first. But again, that keyword that we had on the banner, don't overthink it. But even more importantly, utilize the idea of being frugal. Being frugal does not mean you're being cheap. Being frugal means that you know exactly what you have in your arsenal, what you're trying to achieve, and leveraging and making those matter. I am very frugal, very lazy. But the point of that is whatever I create suits myself. That's why I've been able to do that consistently over the past 4 years. And I think that in itself deserves a merit. It's not about just going viral, being popular, getting all that, but the takeaway, if there's more than one, hopefully you have more than one takeaway from today. Be frugal, be lazy, be able to identify exactly what you need. And if there are any questions specific when it comes to the execution, or there's metrics that you don't understand, or if there's anything that is even remotely related to entrepreneurship and content marketing, come and scan that QR code. You could book a free call with me and we could have a chat like this one-on-one as well. I welcome your conversations and your feedback because that's something that inspires me as a content marketer as to what stories and what things people want to learn about. And you are also helping me fuel my own content engine. So I don't have to do all the work. You're giving me the inspiration and I pump out that content that I also find passion in. So yes, be frugal, be lazy, utilize your storytelling, and be consistent. Everybody can do it too.
Love that. That is so beautiful. And something that I want to remind everybody of is the fact that this advice actually, I seem to remember it coming from Steve Jobs as well. Hire the lazy person. They're going to figure out how to do it the fastest and the most efficient. I'm just saying. So stop throwing spaghetti at the wall. Start really getting specific on what you want to do so that you don't do all the stuff you don't need to or want to do anyways. Again, I'm going to just reiterate, be frugal, be lazy, do it right. With that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and we will chat soon. See you later.